Welcome to the SECED Talks podcast. This episode is part of the series First Steps in Civil Engineering Dynamics. Each episode, we interview a young professional or academic who shares personal career journey and career advice, and hopefully motivates the next generation of civil engineers. Join us if you want to learn more about early career development.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third episode of the SECED Talk series titled First Steps in the Field of Civil Engineering Dynamics. My name is Rafael Fernandez. I am currently a postdoctoral researcher at University College London and a consultant for the World Bank. And today I'm here with Dr. Ji-Eun Byun from Glasgow University. In this episode, Ji-Eun is going to share insights into her daily tasks, responsibilities, and encountered challenges, as well as the prestigious and high-impact projects related to civil engineering she has been involved in. She will also go over the journey towards becoming a lecturer and provide helpful advice to early career development for graduate engineers and young researchers.
Nice to meet you, and thank you for inviting me today.
Thank you very much, Ji-Eun. So, could you please firstly give our audience an introduction about yourself to let people know you better, for example, your academic and professional background and the project you are currently working on?
Yes, I'm Ji-Eun. I'm a lecturer in smart infrastructure at the University of Glasgow in the research division of infrastructure and environment, which is also called civil and environmental engineering. And I received my PhD degree in Seoul National University in South Korea, where I am originally from. And it's been around 5 years since I came out to Europe to work as an academic. At the moment, I am working on several projects that investigate the risk and the resilience of structural and infrastructure systems against extreme hazards like earthquakes. And these days, the tsunami and other hydraulic disasters are of concern, as well as climate change.
Thank you very much, Ji-Eun. So I believe our audience will be keen to know more about your early career. So do you remember the first time you thought that engineering is a good career choice?
I think everybody has a different story about when they first started to become an engineer. But for me, it was quite a straightforward process. That when I was in the high school, I preferred maths and science better than other topics. So I thought I could do well in engineering. And ever since then, I found civil engineering was quite enjoyable in with the new challenges and also some of its classical components. So for me, it has been always straightforward.
Thank you, Ji-Eun. Yeah, I think that most of us as engineers, we have that same common approach of how we arrive in this field. But now that you have been involved for a while, do you still think it is a good career choice, and would you recommend it to young listeners?
Yes, definitely. Civil engineering has been subdued in comparison to other engineering sectors, so like electronic engineering or mechanical engineering, which have become the core of artificial intelligence. But that doesn't mean that civil engineering will be stagnated in the upcoming decades. And I'm very hopeful about its future, where all these new technologies and the new values have been introduced, and there is very interesting transformative changes at the university.
So thank you very much, Ji-Yoon. I think that part that you're mentioning about AI is actually critical, because the way we saw civil engineer when we started studying and how it is now, with all the progress around the LLMs and all the different techniques associated with artificial intelligence, now the perspective is a bit different. So how do you think all of these recent technological advances will affect the career itself and the practice of future civil engineers?
I think now there will be less and less demands, especially with the advent of large language models like ChatGPT, on the on repeating what we have been doing until now, like this design of conventional buildings and repeating the very similar designs for different houses. These will likely to be replaced with all these automated machines. So now the world is looking more and more for these professionals that can do different things that have never been tried before. And that will be what will be required for civil engineering as well. That, for instance, how we can significantly improve the productivity of construction projects and how we can effectively manage all the delays that all these construction projects are facing, or even like more drastically, there are this experimental research on if we can build our structures by with 3D printing, which hasn't been very successful. But I think all these are what we will be looking for, rather than how we can build the conventional buildings best in the most efficient way.
I totally agree, Ji-Eun, and I think that the world is changing very fast, and us as engineers, we need to adapt to this new context. So following up with our conversation, it's commonly acknowledged that finding the first job and developing essential skills and gaining experience can be more challenging. So how did you find your first opportunity to work on a engineering related project? And maybe how would you approach it differently now with all these new technologies?
The I think the most challenge is the fact that we don't have that much track record to show at the very beginning of our career. So in my case, um, my first job was as a postdoc position at University College London, which I got after receiving my PhD degree. And my piece of advice when looking for the first job is constantly trying to find a way to improve your CV. And in my case, during my PhD, I tried to get the opportunities to collaborate with international researchers. And so at the very beginning of my PhD, I could involve in this project with Technical University of Munich. And out of the project, I could publish 2 papers together with the international team. And also at the end of my PhD, I had the opportunity to stay for a month in the America, and that kind of experiences and the records certainly helped me finding a job. So, and these opportunities are only available when you act proactively, because nobody just brings you nice opportunities out of kindness. So this requires this constant effort and searching.
Completely agree as well. And I think that something that you just mentioned is very relevant, and it's you need to have a network, a professional network to rely on, and the only way to do that is by working and showing the value of all your work. So based on that, maybe could you share any projects you are currently working on or have recently completed that are related to civil engineering and system level performance assessment that help you also to enrich this network of professionals and your own network and your own visibility?
Where every project has a different meaning, but the most recent project that could be most relevant to SECED are these two post-earthquake reconnaissance missions. One was in Turkey in early 2023, and another in Myanmar, which just happened early this year. And um, and the I first got involved in these reconnaissance missions because I've been always a computing researcher, so I never understood how these numbers actually translate to what's happening on disaster sites. And that was the motivation, and that they were truly an eye-opening experience. So, for instance, we often um, we often compute the expected days of loss of water services, um, but what it means by not having clean water for 2 months, it has a completely different meaning on site for those affected people. And that happened both in Turkey and Myanmar. And it is not only about health concerns, but it is also about the psychological effects that these people have and the impact of on the rest of their lives, especially for these children. So this experience on site really helped me understanding what we need to reflect in our numerical model and how we need to translate these numbers into qualitative data so that they can actually help decision makers make better informed decisions.
It's wonderful, Ji-Eun. And yeah, I think that many times us as engineers working behind the computer, we lack the understanding of really how things work in the field, and we neglect many of the variables and things that are happening just to create our model that is very fancy and that generate beautiful results, but without knowing if these results are actually applicable or not. And I think there's a lot of value of on doing these reconnaissance missions. And specifically, I would like to ask you, what is IFIT? What's your role in it, and how's been your experience being in this organization?
So my first involvement with EFA was the Turkey mission, and that was because I saw this announcement that they were looking for volunteers, and I was very interested in this initiative of going to the site and gaining the first-hand experiences on earthquake disasters. Then I wanted, and after the mission, it was a very good learning experience for me. So I wanted to get more involved with the EFIT. So I applied for the young member representative position, and thankfully I got elected. And it was a 2-year term, and it just ended early this year. So I'm now in this committee as a committee member to help the new representative to take the role over. And this young committee combine brings young professionals in IFIT together, and we hold seminar series, and we have now and then just friendly event. So if it is on one hand, it is an institution to perform these reconnaissance missions, but on the other hand, it performs as a community that brings this professionals who are interested in this field investigation work. And we have the separate society for young members as well. And also um, with this link to EFIT, I could involve in another reconnaissance mission that happened in Myanmar. But in this case, it was not a independent mission by EFIT because Myanmar was a special case that it was not easy for researchers to travel around freely. So it was a joint mission between many organizations like ERI and STEER in the US, here as well. And it was also a very good opportunity to get to know people around the world with the same interests, and also to learn the good practices that are done in other organizations. And this Myanmar earthquake project was showed these very distinct interactions between the geopolitical risks and disaster risks and some economic risks as well. So it showed how we need to consider interactions between all these risks rather than just the physical risks if we really want to protect the communities from hazard risks.
It's really, really interesting, and that connects with what we were talking before about how there are many things that we're neglecting or ignoring when we just work on the models without going to the field. And also that experience in Myanmar shows us the relevance of having these type of networks and being connected with the different institutions that are working similar things, so all can do better together. So based on all this, we can see the great effort you put both in your personal development and the projects you have worked on. Throughout one career development, individuals may encounter various challenges. So, in your specific case, what challenges have you encountered in your career and how did you solve them or tackle them?
I think this would really depend on personality. But for my case, it seems like I encounter crisis every other month, and usually that seems to come from inside. So whenever good things are happening in myself, then many rejections cannot harm me, and nothing can really depress me. But if I am feeling really bad, then nothing can cheer me, and I really cannot concentrate on what's going on around me. And uh, and the past few years' experience taught me to recognize that these are the moments to self care. So during these periods, I tried to cancel unnecessary meetings and read random things and walk a lot. And this kind of self caring is seems especially important for researchers that are in academia, which where things run kind of around the clock, and we cannot really separate between life and work. And this is the moment where self-caring becomes more important.
Thanks for sharing that experience, Ji-Eun. And I think that is common to all the practitioners, and specifically in academia. This is a bumpy ride with ups and downs. And I think that the most important part is acknowledging that better times will come and also worse time as well. So it's good to be prepared and to have the tools to be able to sort out those moments. Um, so all this provides useful information on career and development for aspiring engineers looking to specialize in these fields. All the past projects have equipped you with different necessary attributes for becoming a lecturer at Glasgow University, which represents a significant milestone in your career. Could you advise our listeners on how to apply to these types of positions and let us know how was your process?
I think advice will be different from the different for different stage career stages. So for undergrad, I think it's a far away story. So I suggest reading new things, when the textbooks, and try to learn theory. For postgraduate students or PhD students, it is really the time to expand the network, just not just the supervisory team, but also be active in the conferences. And if possible, not just to be friends with international researchers, but actually write a paper, approach them, pitch your idea, and ask them if they want to involve in writing a paper together. And um, and that really helps building this academic career. And for postdoc, I think I started applying for positions about 1 year after receiving the PhD. And during the first two applications and a couple of interviews, it was really depressing because I knew I did terribly, and I felt like I would never progress. But uh, as thing everything is, it just it gets better. So the third interview was certainly better, and uh, so have a faith in yourself and just keep applying. And then the process is quite straightforward. That you keep applying, then you are invited for online interview. Then then the next step is a first stage interview that usually take 1 or 2 days, and it's a lot of waiting. It's a very slow process. And if the listeners are postdoc that are looking for a lectureship, then uh, I could provide more specific answers. Like I for the first few rounds, I subscribe this professional services to edit my documentations. At some point, it is not necessary, but in the beginning, it certainly helps, like to understand the how things are done conventionally. And also, when you go to the interview, I think there are two important things that I missed during my first interviews. The first one is having this very long-term vision, because when we say independent researchers, so when they are looking for assistant professors or lecturers, they are looking for independent researchers. And by being independent, my interpretation is having an independent long-term vision, and the directions of the research work should be directed to this vision, although it may change, and it usually changes a lot. So, um, so there will be always this question that what your research will look like in 20 years' time, then you should have thought about it way before and many times, so that you can provide a solid answer showing that you have planned. And also, another question that I missed was uh, if you have any questions from us. But that question is to check if you have really thought about the very specifics from the first day of your work there. So when you make an application, and especially when you are invited to the interview, study carefully their website and their recent initiatives and the faculty members, and imagine yourself that like from the very first day, who you will continue to collaborate, who will be your new collaboration links, and which funders you are going to apply for, and all these plans lead to naturally to questions from them if they have this infrastructure that can support your vision, or what are the teaching loads, because definitely that will affect your schedule. So and I think towards the later interviews of mine, which were successful, uh, I think I managed to answer these two questions better than before. And this is usually what early career researchers remain vague when they and they have this burst of experience.
Excellent, excellent advice, Ji-Eun, and also very comprehensive. You covered all the range, so that's very good. And as takeaway of your answer, I think that it's very important to be prepared and prepare as much as possible. At the end, it's normal that the first time that you do it, you don't do it very well, but then the second you will learn from that, and as you continue, you will see how your performance in interviews and in all these processes increase. So I really appreciate the share on the very helpful information about your professional qualifications. And this will undoubtedly help our early career engineers in gaining clarity and starting their preparations earlier. Beyond that, do you have any advice to undergraduates and graduate engineers, for example, to develop any skills in high demand in academia, in any potential innovating projects in the future that undergraduates and graduates can prepare earlier to get involved in the future? And this connects also with what we were discussing before with AI and all these new tools. So what would be your advice in that sense?
Right. So the skills in demand are definitely changing in the direction to programming and artificial intelligence, machine learning. So these are these have now become basic skills that everybody needs to at least have some understanding. Like we can now, everyone can now do use Excel and Word. So I think this is an inevitable trend. So even if we are in civil engineering, we know what the tools do, and we should be able to use these tools when necessary. But I think what's very missing in civil engineering these days is this innovative minds or innovation-driven minds. So in other engineering sectors like and also computer science, startups are very common, and they always they seem to always be thinking about new technologies. But in civil engineering, this hasn't been true, and it seems like that partly accounts for the less popularity that we are facing compared to other engineering sectors. So we need this innovation-driven minds more in our younger generations, so that we civil engineers can thrive again, as we did when we invented concrete, which provided this ever safer and more affordable structures than ever. And also, when we think about the invention of water infrastructure, it saved an unimaginable number of lives, let alone improve the life conditions. So, and I believe these can happen again, but it's only that during the past decades we failed to show this improvement in the productivity in a transformative way. There have been incremental achievements for certainly, but we didn't achieve this transformative levels of innovation as, for instance, what's happening in artificial intelligence industry is looking. So, and for that, I would recommend try to read the world and try to like think about the ridiculous and this and take time to daydream, because we need more crazy minds in civil engineering, because it doesn't have to be always conservative, but for some reason this sector seems to have this stigma that this requires conservative minds. But I hope this will not be true. This will not be true in the coming years.
It's a great answer, Ji-Yoon, and I like this concept of innovative driven minds. And at the end, I think that in a world that is changing so much, we are seeing new versions of LLMs for monthly. We are now starting to see these agentic AIs that can do a lot of things. And if you don't have this open mind to actually try to use this and see all the advantages of using this in their own practice, then you will not be ahead of what things are going. So thank you very much, Ji-Yoon. It was really a pleasure to have this conversation with you, to learn about all your experience and your career. And I really hope to see you again soon. Thank you also to our listeners, and looking forward to our next episode.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you for listening the SECED Talks podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode and you feel more confident in navigating your first steps in civil engineering dynamics. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay updated on the latest episodes.